All right, this video series is going to be on Task 3, Rigging Connections. Why are we doing this? Well, because at home, you could be studying extra for your practical exam coming up. We already have videos on tying knots. We have videos on rigging hitches. We're also going to throw up some videos on the accept and reject. So I think it's important that you spend some time and get very, very comfortable with rigging connections. This is the biggest part of your practical exam, and typically speaking, this is the part that jams up students and keeps them from getting that CCO card that they came for. All right, so your setup for Task 3, Rigging Connections, will look much like this. You'll be given that 6" by 6" 30" long aluminum square tube. Here we use a 5 by 5, and it's PVC to rig. You will get some cards, one of each color. At KWI, we practice the same way, so we've got some greens, some yellows, some pinks. You're gonna pull one of each color, and those will be your 3 rigging assignments for that day. You're gonna have a hook. She's supposed to be between 5 and 7 foot, and that's where we're at. So today we'll show you about a dozen scenarios that'll be very similar to what you'll see on game day when you actually test your practical for CCO on rigger. Okay, I'm going to read the verbatim to you. Task 3, Rigging Connections. If any task uses hardware that normally requires a torque wrench for final tightening, you're only required to secure the hardware to finger tight condition. Softeners are not required. You'll have 1 minute to review the available rigging equipment for this testing session. The rigging has been inspected and is approved for use. You will choose 3 task assignment cards, one of each color, for the 3 rigging tasks. I will read the cards aloud. In my indication to start, gather and assemble the rigging materials that are required to complete the assigned task. You'll then rig and suspend the 6" by 30" aluminum square tube as described on the task assignment card. When you've completed your rigging assignment, announce that you are done. You'll then disassemble the rigging assembly before continuing on to the next rigging assignment. Make sure the top of the load is in the top position before having the rigging evaluated. Do you understand these instructions? That's the verbatim. Are you ready to rig? So what will it look like? After I give the verbatim, we'll go directly to reading cards. You'll pick up, again, one of each color, and I will read them aloud to you. I'll have a card with the answers at the bottom. You'll have a card that only has the writing up top. And I'll read the card aloud to you. This one for us is Task E. Connect a 1/2" by 1.5" shouldered eye bolt through the center hole, the top surface of the tube. Secure eye bolt hand tight with washer and nut. Using a 1/2" shackle, attach a 3-foot eye and eye web sling to the eye bolt. Using a 5/8" shackle, attach the web sling to the hoist hook with the pin seated in the hoist hook. Using 2 half hitches, attach the tag line to the square tube. Let's rig this up. As I read, you're allowed to read along with me, or you could start grabbing the stuff that you hear that you'll need to rig that assignment. So I've gathered what we need. It said connect a 1/2" by 1.5" shouldered eye bolt with washer and nut. So I've got that. It said attach a 3-foot eye and eye web sling to a 1/2" shackle to the eye bolt, and then use a 5/8" shackle to attach that 3-foot shackle to our hoist hook. And then at the end it said using 2 half hitches, attach a tag line to the square tube. So let's rig this up. I'm going to use that 1/2" by 1.5" long shouldered eye bolt with washer and nut. Pet peeve of mine, I've had some guys put that washer on top. She's going on the bottom. You could use the washer on top if you needed to shim for whatever reason, but we're not in this scenario. You've heard about the plane of the eye with your eye bolt. The plane of the eye means that we can pull it that way, and it's strong. Still shouldn't do it at a 45, by no means. But it's stronger this way than if we pulled it that way. It's gonna bow over, flex over, break on us. That's not important in this scenario because we're doing a straight line vertical hitch. But just heads up on some other scenarios, you're gonna need to know that. It said use a 1/2" shackle to attach a 3-foot eye and eye web sling. And then it said to use a 5/8" shackle with the pin seated in the hoist hook. It then said to attach a tag line using 2 half hitches. So I'm going to two half hitches there. And I've got a whole video on knots, so we'll ignore the knot for now, but that's your 2 half hitches. How will I grade this? As a practical examiner, when you look at me and say, done, I'm gonna walk over. I like to start from the top and work my way down. So grading this, and you can grade this at home if you're doing it, I'm gonna grab that pin, make sure she's fully seated. Not just hand tight, but that it's actually enclosed, there's no air gaps between my shackle pin and the shackle itself. So we are fully seated. It did specify that the pin be in the hoist hook, so I'm making sure she's the correct orientation. I'm checking to make sure that is a 3-foot eye-and-eye web sling, because that's what the directions told me. And then I've secured that with a 1/2 inch shackle that is also, the pin is fully seated. And I'm checking your eye bolt to make sure that it is hand tight with a washer and nut. Washer first, then nut, in that order. This would give you a selected correctly, applied correctly grade. This is how you grade task E. All right, so next card, task A. Using 2 6-foot round slings, create a double wrap basket hitch at each end of the square tube. Gather the upper loops of each round sling into a 5/8 inch shackle and attach one eye of 1-foot web sling. Repeat at the other end of the square tube. Gather web sling's upper eyes into a 5/8 inch shackle and place onto the hoist hook. Let's rig this scenario. All right, so task A, I've gathered the materials. We're going to start with the 2 6-foot round slings. Using the 2 6-foot round slings, create a double wrap basket hitch at each end of the tube. You are allowed to stack these on top of each other, not multiple times. Use it as itself right there. So what I'm saying is these don't have to be sorted when we do our double wrap. So fold those like that, and we'll get started. Double wrap basket means I got to go around this thing 2 times. The trick to this maybe is to make sure that these 2 ends are even. You can see right now we're not even. That's going to be fixed. So I would just loosen this one, gain some slack, pick it up on that far side, and now we're pretty good. All right, so there's a double wrap basket. Notice my data tag is up and out of harm's way. Grab my second one, take a minute and get those things sorted to where they're all nice and flat. Not quite equal. So again, we're going to drop one, take up some slack, a little more. There we go. So now I've got my 2 double wrap baskets. I said to gather the upper loops on each side into a 5/8 inch shackle and connect to a 1-foot eye-and-eye web sling. Here's my 1-foot eye-and-eye web sling. I'm going to gather these upper loops. Gather the upper loop. And we're looking to put that into a 1-foot web sling. All right, so kind of tricky in order to grab all that, lay it down where it doesn't unfold on you. Do the same thing on this end, 5/8 inch shackle. Said do it again on the other side. So gather our upper loops. Gather our upper loops. Make sure our pins are fully seated. And then it directed us to gather those web slings into a 5/8 inch shackle and place in the hoist hook. Now once she's hanging, and before I yell done at anybody for a grade, I'm going to go ahead and take some time and adjust this. I also need to make sure the top of my load is in the top position. Alright, so let's talk this one out. If I'm a practical examiner, and I am, and we're grading this, did we use 2 6-foot round slings? Did we create double wrap basket hitches? Did we use 5/8 inch shackles to gather those upper loops on each end into a 1-foot I-9 web sling, collect those into a 5/8 inch shackle and hang it in the hoist hook? If we selected correctly, then that's good. Did we apply it correctly? As an examiner, practical examiner, I'm going to check. I'm going to start at the top, check my pin. Is it fully seated? Did I put the pin, because it designates that, the pin seated in the hoist hook? Good. Are my data tags on my 1-foot I-9 web slings out of harm's way? They are. What about my 5/8 inch shackles? Are they fully seated? They are. Inside that shackle, did I attempt to keep those off each other as far as bunching up? It's tough, especially with these slings in that 5/8 inch shackle. But I made an attempt to make sure they're not bunched up inside that shackle. And then tracing this down, I shouldn't find any twists. They should be straight, good. And underneath, and I'll show you here in a second, underneath I shouldn't be crisscrossed. How can I tell if I crisscross somewhere else? If on this double wrap basket, if one sling pops out on the left and the other sling pops out on the right of the main braid here in the middle, then I have stayed uncrossed underneath. If for some reason they both pop out, in this example, here's the main braid, if they both pop out on the left, then I know I've crossed somewhere else. In this case, I'm crossed underneath. That's a no-no. We don't do that. So if I make sure that as that double wrap basket comes up, one is coming off on the left, one's coming up on the right, then I can trace this underneath. I should be able to take my hands and always feel that tube. I never cross underneath. All right? So this would be a great selected correctly and applied, and I've messed this up over here. So fix that real quick. Selected it correctly and applied correctly. We're getting full credit for this right here. All our data tags are up and out of harm's way. Our pins are fully seated. There's no twists or turns. We're not bunched or crisscrossed. Ready for a grade. Done. Task J. Using 2 5-foot web slings, create a single wrap basket hitch near each end of the tube. Using a 5/8 inch shackle, gather the sling eyes, repeat at the other end. Connect the shackles to a master link, place the master link into the hoist hook. Let's rig this. 2 5-foot web slings in basket hitches. 5/8 inch shackle, collects those sling eyes. Pins are fully seated. Repeat at the other end. And attach to a master link. Alright, so let's review this. Using 2 5-foot web slings, create a single wrap basket hitch near each end of the square tube. Using a 5/8 inch shackle, collect the upper sling eyes, repeat at the other end of the tube. Connect the shackles to a master link, place the master link into the hoist hook. So we have selected correctly. Have we applied correctly? As a practical examiner, I'm going to check. Master link is in there. The shackles, are the pins seated, fully seated? And I'm going to run my hands, I'm going to make sure in this shackle that those are separated, that those slings aren't bunching up or on top of each other. All right? I'm going to slide my hands down, making sure there's no twists or turns. I'm going to slide my hands underneath to make sure, again, that we are flat. Everything is nice. And I'll repeat at the other end. Shackles tight, not bunched up, underneath is good. This one receives full credit right here. Task I, using 2 of the 6-foot round slings and 5/8" shackles, create a single wrap choker hitch through the shackle at each end of the square tube in opposite directions. Using a 5/8" shackle, collect the uprise and place the pin of the shackle into the hoist hook. 2 6-foot round slings, we want that single choker hitch through the shackle. So I'm going to go ahead and put my shackle in. I want to make sure that that pin is on the dead end of that sling, so that if I get any motion off this choker at all, it is sliding on the bow of the shackle and not that pin where it could possibly loosen my shackle pin. Alright, so there is one single wrap choker with a shackle. It's in the opposite direction, so I've got to pay attention here. I want to make sure this one's coming from the other side. Spin that around, make sure that pin is on the dead end of that sling. So again, if you can say to and fro action on that pin, as it slides into that choker, it could loosen that pin. So we always want that on the dead end so that the slide motion is happening not on the pin. Collect these into a 5/8" shackle. Try to make sure these aren't bunched up on top of each other in that shackle, but it's bound to happen. Place the pin in the hoist hook. Now this one kind of hangs low, so it might be tough to see on the camera angle I've got. All right, we'll pick it up and we'll show you. Matter of fact, I can raise it up. We'll grade it here. So, did I select correctly? Using 2 6-foot round slings, 2 6-foot round slings, and 5/8" shackles, 5/8" shackles. Create a single wrap choker hitch through the shackle at each end of the square tube in the opposite directions. Using a 5/8" shackle, collect the upper eyes and place the pin of the shackle into the hoist hook. So now I've selected correctly. Did I apply correctly? As an examiner, I'm going to check that shackle. Is that pin seated? Yes. Did I attempt or separate the bunchiness of what happens to those shackles in that, what happens to that sling in that shackle? Yes, I did. Data tags, are they out of harm's way? Yes, they're up towards that crane hook, so they're not in harm's way. Sliding down, I'm simply going to raise this up for you. Bring it into view. All right, so sliding down, we were supposed to do a single choker, which we did, in opposite directions. So notice this one is coming off from the right side and this choker coming from the left side. So they're definitely in the opposite direction. Did I place that shackle correctly? Yes. I have the pin on the dead end, receiving no action, no sliding back and forth. Checking that out, none of this purple sling right here is twisted or turned. All right, I'm gonna follow that underneath. And again, underneath, all nice and smooth, nice and flat. There's no twists or turns. It's not bunched up on top of itself. Make sure my pins are seated, fully seated. And I also do not want to see anybody push these shackles down. That creates a harsh angle coming off that sling, and in a choker that's going to reduce the capacity, the WLL of that sling. So they need to be pretty, basically a 120 angle coming from around the tube back up to my hoist hook there. So keep those shackles up and not jammed down. So that would be selected correctly and applied correctly. Task I. Task F is one I would like to see you rig again with your instructor, simply because we're going to use these shoulder and eye bolts, and I want to make sure you understand what in the plane of the eye means. So it would make me feel good if you would rig a task F. That way, if you pull a card that has 2 shoulder eye bolts, you would know how to put those in correctly. Let's get into it. Task F says, insert and secure 2 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch long shoulder eye bolts, hand tight with washers and nuts, into holes on the top surface of the tube at the end. So let's go ahead and do that now. So 2 1/2 inch by 1.5 inch shoulder eye bolts, hand tight. I've got my shoulder eye bolt in. I know I'm doing 2, so I'm doing it on each end, and I'm going ahead and twisting that and getting those pointing at each other, which put them in the plane of the eye. I've got my washer underneath. I've got that nut underneath. The next thing it says is using 2 of the 3-foot web sling, round slings. So I've got 2. These are the round slings. You can check the lengths on them if you want, but these are the 3-foot round slings. And a 5/8 inch shackle. Attach those round slings to each eye bolt. Notice you got the eyes pointing at each other. They're not looking at each other, right? This would be looking at each other. If they were looking at each other, we would bend them in. So we want them pointing at each other, not looking at each other, and that'll put them in the plane of the eye. I like those data tags up. All right, so I'm going to start there, make sure that data tag can be up, and then attach that round sling to that eye bolt. That data tag up. Always be mindful getting those data tags up and out of harm's way. Easiest way is to get them up towards the crane hook. Using 2 of the 3-foot round slings and 5/8 inch shackle, attach each sling to a hoist ring, a shoulder eye bolt. Using a 5/8 inch shackle, gather the upper sling loops. So we're going to gather these. I'm going to go ahead and pay attention now to make sure I don't have any twists, turns. Try to make sure those purple slings aren't bunched up inside of that shackle. Hang the pin of the shackle in the hoist hook. So as a student testing out, a candidate, I'm doing these double checks myself. I might even reread that card. Insert, using this, and then make sure to walk myself back through it. Then I'm gonna look at my practical examiner and say done. At that point, I'm gonna step in. I like to start at the top, work my way down. Is that pin seated? Yes. Did we pull apart the bunchiness that happens with these things in the shackle? Yes. Following down one leg, is the shackle seated? The pin seated? Yes. Is the eye bolt in the plane? Is it pointing at the other one? It is. Underneath, do I have a washer and a nut that are hand tight? We do. Follow the other side down. Is it a 3-foot? Yes. Are there any twists and turns? No, it's good and straight. Is that pin seated? It is. Is that eye bolt pointing at the other? It is. Underneath, I have a washer and a nut, and they're hand tight. This is task F. This is selected correctly and applied correctly. This is a good score. Task B. This is kind of a long card, so hang with me. Attach 4 side pull hoist rings to the end holes on both sides of the square tube. Secure hand tight with washers and nuts. Using 5/8 inch shackles, attach a 3-foot eye-and-eye web sling to each side pole. Gather each end into a half inch shackle. Place those into a master link, hang the master link onto the hoist hook. So let's rig this scenario. I'm going to start with my side pulls. Please know the difference there. This is not a swivel hoist ring, this is a side pull. I've got my washer and my nut. Start putting these in here on the sides of each end. All right, just making sure they are hand tight. Torque wrench not required. We have our side poles on. From there it says to attach 3-foot web slings using 5/8 inch shackles on each. I'm dropping those data tags towards the floor right now, which will put them up towards the crane hook here in a second. All my shackle pins are fully seated. So we gather each end into a 1/2 inch. Now this one can tend to get messy. We'll sort it out once it's hanging in the hoist hook. Roll up in the hoist hook. What I mean by messy is we still don't want any twists in any of these, so this would be the time to tell. Once it's hanging, it's easier to see that. So the question is, did we select correctly? Am I using 4 side pole hoist rings? I am. Washers and nuts? Check. Did I use 5/8 inch shackles to attach those side poles to my 3-foot I&I web slings? I did. Did I gather those with 1/2 inch shackles into a master link and onto the hoist hook? So we selected correctly. Now did we apply it correctly? Let's check that out. Did I grab the correct master link, 1/2 inch master link? I can check that. Yes, the size is correct. It's used correctly. Are the shackles fully seated? They are. Up top, did I make sure that I was separating the bunching that happens with slings up in that shackle? I did. Following them down, did I use 3-foot? I did. Do we have any twists? No, these are nice and straight. Did my pins, are they fully seated? They are. Inside, are my side poles hand tight with a washer and a nut on the inside? They are. Other side, did I separate the bunch of this? Yes. These are nice and straight. What would a twist look like? So really quick, we'll twist this one up and show you. Of course, this could be twisted like that, and that would be a no-go. Or you could have just twisted one leg. So for whatever reason, you woke up this morning and thought, I'm going to fail this test. This is what that might look like. So I've obviously got this sling twisted. That would be applied incorrectly. Not going to work for us. As I'm checking that out, I would see, hey, this one is nice and straight. This one is corkscrewed. I'm going to have to knock him down some points. As I get down to the shackle, are they fully seated? They are. Washer and nut, hand tight. Washer and nut, hand tight. Excellent. Other than the sling that we just messed up, this one is applied correctly. Task K, connect a swivel hoist ring into each end hole of the load stop surface. Secure the hoist ring with washer and nut. Using a 5/8 inch shackle, secure the hoist ring to a 1/4 inch by 2-foot wire rope bridle sling. Hang the wire rope sling's master link into the hoist hook. Let's rig this scenario. This is task K. So I'm on the load stop surface, swivel hoist ring, underneath, washer and nut. hand tight. Repeat at the other end. It told us to put a master link, or a 5/8" shackle onto that swivel hoist. Then using that 1/4 inch, and the 1/4 inch is the cable diameter. Using that 1/4 inch. By 2-foot long wire rope bridle sling, and hang the master link of that wire rope bridle sling into the hoist hook. Now, truth be told, you probably don't need these 5/8" shackles. We could probably connect that the cable directly into that swivel hoist ring, but it's what it told us to do. So can we listen to directions and make this happen? Yes, we can. Did we select correctly? Did I use 2 swivel hoist rings? Yes. Did I use 5/8" shackles like it said? Yes. Did I use the 1/4 inch by 2-foot long wire rope bridle sling? I did. Now let's see if we applied it correctly. Wire rope looks good. Pet peeve of mine. We should know by now that these hooks lose capacity as we get closer and closer to that tip of that hook. So if I rig this with that hook pointing down and my angle is pretty harsh, then I'm going to start getting to the tip of that hook. So I like to see, when you use a 2-leg wire rope, I like to see that hook pointing out, so that no matter what, the harsher I rig this, I'm getting into the meat of that hook and not the tip. So I'm not point loading anything as far as the stress on that hook. All right, so again, did we apply it correctly? Yes, hooks are out. My 5/8" shackles, are the pins seated, fully engaged? Yes, they are. On my swivel hoist rings, did I put a washer, then a nut, and is it hand tight? This side is good. Go to the other side. Is the hook pointing out? Yes, it is. Is the pin seated? Yes, fully seated. Is my washer and nut underneath hand tight? Yes, it is. This is selected correctly and applied correctly. Task K at KWI. Task L. Connect a swivel hoist ring at each end of the loan's top surface. Secure with a washer and nut. Using the 6-foot adjustable 2-leg chain sling, use the grab hooks to shorten each chain to an overall reach of 4 feet, plus or minus 2 inches. Attach the lower leg hooks into the swivel hoist rings. It actually says 4 feet 6 inches, I apologize. So let's rig this. I've got my swivel hoist rings. I've got a washer and a nut. I'm going to attach those to each end of the load's top surface. Not having to torque these down. This is finger tight condition. We're good on that one. Good on that one. So 2 swivel hoist rings, washer and nut underneath. Using the 6-foot adjustable 2-leg chain sling. I like to hang these up. You're going to pull them out of off the table or out of your bucket there, and they're going to be on the table maybe. How do you get that length that you're looking for? Much easier if you'll go ahead and hang it in the hoist hook right now. And then go ahead and measure. We're looking for an overall reach, so we got to be from the inside of that chain sling's master link to the bottom, to the bow of that hook. All right, so I'm going to guess real quick what 4 foot 6 inches looks like. Put it in that grab hook to maintain it, and then I'm going to measure. And I've got 4 feet, so I need to add 6 inches. All right, so I'm going to roughly grab another length there. I'm going to measure that. 4 feet 8 inches. So we're getting closer. I need to suck back 2 more inches. Now this gives you a tolerance. It says plus or minus 2 inches. All I'm going to say is don't be that guy. Okay, it's a test. This is your practical exam. Why do you want to flirt with that plus or minus 2 inches? If it says 4 foot 6, then be 4 foot 6. All right, attention to detail. So now this leg is 4 foot 6 inches. I don't have to remeasure the other one. I just need to match it. All right, so that's all I did. I looked at the other one and I made it match. They're the same length, we're ready to go. And I did all that without flopping around here on the table. Hanging it up, measuring that overall reach, now I can clip in. I can pull my table closer if I need to, but I think I can actually reach with where I'm at. So I'm grabbing that chain sling, hooking into my swivel hoist, and it's on that crane's hook. So did I select correctly? The card said using 2 swivel hoist rings, we did that. Washers and nuts, we did that. Using the 6-foot adjustable chain sling. So the components we were told to get, we did. So we selected correctly. Awesome. Now did we apply it correctly? Let's take a look. As a practical examiner, how will I grade this? The first thing I'm gonna do on this one is go for my tape measure. And I'm gonna measure from the inside of that master link to the bottom of that hook. And I'm gonna make sure it tells me 4 foot 6 inches. All right? And I'll probably just measure 1 if it's sitting level. So we're good there. Now I need to check those swivel hoist rings. On the swivel hoist ring, did you put that washer nut underneath, and is it hand tight? And on these, it absolutely is. So this is a pretty easy rig right here. This scenario is done. We definitely selected correctly, and we applied correctly. Do this one with your instructor, please. Make sure you can measure that. I gotta be honest, probably 20% of the guys that I practical exam mess this up. They do not measure that overall reach correctly. So what am I seeing? I see guys start to measure that from the bottom of their master link. All right, so definitely you have to include that. Your formula in your books is gonna be that the master link is A, and the length of your sling leg is B. And the formula is A plus B gives you overall reach. Now because we hung it in the hoist hook and it was laying vertically, then we can take that as one measurement. We already added A plus B. So make sure you do that correctly. Task D. Using the lower end of the 6-foot 2-leg chain sling, create a double wrap choker hitch at each end of the square tube in the same direction. Connect the master link of the chain sling into the hoist hook. This will be pretty easy as far as selecting correctly. If you get this wrong, I don't know about you. So all we have to do is grab the chain sling. Now we have to rig it correctly. Let's do that. It says a double wrap choker. 1, 2, in the same direction. Hang it in the hoist hook. Selected correctly, applied correctly. Let's talk this one out slow. I see this one go wrong a lot. So, we definitely selected correctly, that's easy. How do we apply it? Basically, as a practical examiner, I'm gonna start at the hoist hook and work my way down. Everything's good. It asks for that double wrap choker, so I'm making sure you're around there 2 times and that you're chokered in. It said the same direction. So both my orange hooks should be coming from the same direction, grabbing onto that chain going to your hoist hook, which we are. I should be able to, where does the cross happen? On these chains, there's gonna be some sort of cross that happens on the sling. It should never happen on 3 sides. It should not happen on the left, on the bottom, or on the right of that load. It should happen on the top, but actually, as it does cross, you can see it kind of crosses right there. The hook's coming up from this side, from your left, and we're going to the hoist hook on the right, and the other is crisscrossing. So the cross is happening, but if you will, that hook is crossing in the air, so it's not actually touching anywhere. All right, so we never have slings touching each other on that load when the cross happens. So this is good. As an examiner, how do I check that? I take the blade of my hand here, and I make sure that I'm touching the load, touching the load, touching the load. So I should never get caught up because you've crossed your sling anywhere but the top. So how will you know if you've crossed it? Notice on this side that what is going to the hoist hook, the hook here, and the leg of the sling is going to the hoist hook, are popping out on opposite ends. This one's on the left, or your right, and this one's on your left. Notice these, both the sling leg that's going to the hoist hook and the hook here itself are both popping out on the right side. So something must be wrong. Okay, somewhere we've crisscrossed. It's not here, right? And it's not back here. So let's take a look underneath and see what happened. Boom, there we go. So yeah, we've crossed, and that's gonna be a no-go. This is gonna get you a no-go on the, did you apply it correctly? This is not applied correctly. It's an easy fix though. All I've gotta do is start with that cross and start pulling it off itself until I get to the top, and there we go. Now I've just forced that cross, because it's gonna happen, but to happen at the top of the load, where it's happening in the air, and we're not messing it up. All right, so again, this is a really simple task. Just make sure your chains aren't crossed anywhere on the 3 sides that count. Make sure the cross is happening in the air on the top, and watch those words for opposing, same, opposite direction. Make sure you're doing what the card requests. This is card 8-foot I&I web slings. Create a double wrap choker hitch through the 5/8 inch shackle near each end of the tube in the same direction. Collect the upper eyes of the slings into a 5/8 inch shackle and place the hoist hook, or place the pin into the hoist hook. Let's rig this scenario. I like my data tags up, so I'm gonna go ahead and, this is a double wrap choker. So I know I'm gonna use this, and I want that on the dead end. So let's go around here once, twice, the double wrap. I'm gonna go ahead and tie that pin in, making sure the pin is seated fully. And then I'm gonna go ahead and roll that around to where that pin is on the dead end of that choker. Again, because if that pin is on the live end, as we loosen and slacken that load, it's possible I could unscrew that pin. Again, start with that data tag, make sure she's up. And I'm gonna want this in the same direction. So go once, go twice, and that'll pop us out in the same direction. Gotta be careful here. Like, I was just twisted right there in that eye. So I stopped for a second and untwisted that eye. I can have no twists, turns in these scenarios, especially on the job. It's gonna weaken that sling. You're gonna get somebody hurt. All right, and the last thing it told me to do is collect these sling eyes into a 5/8 inch shackle and place that shackle into the hoist hook. Collect these sling eyes, make sure I'm not twisted and turned. Data tags are up, pins are fully seated. And we make that look easy. All right, so I'll start at the top. Did we select correctly? Did we use 2 8-foot I&I web slings? I'm gonna look, and I can just read the data tags like you. 8-foot I&I web slings, we're good. Did we use 5/8 inch shackles to create the double wrap? And did we use a 5/8 shackle in the hoist hook? We absolutely did, so we have selected correctly. Did we apply correctly? As a practical examiner, how do I check? From the top down. I'm gonna grab that 5/8 inch shackle. Is the pin seated? Because that's what it said. Pin in the hoist hook. And is it fully engaged? It absolutely is. Did you separate the slings in that shackle? We don't want them bunched or on top of each other, so they are separated. I'm gonna grab one leg. I'm gonna go ahead and raise this up for you. That'll make seeing the rest of this a little easy. Notice my data tags are up and out of harm's way. They will always be out of harm's way if they're pointing up at the crane there. So if you put them down in here somewhere, yes, you can play and fold them the right way and hopefully get them out of harm's way, but you won't have to fight those issues if you'll just put those data tags up towards the hoist hook. All right, so looking at this real quick. Top of the load is in the top position, that's a good one. And checking my shackles. Notice that nothing is twisted. These all come straight down nice and flat. No twists coming down to my shackle. My shackles, I'm gonna check this side first. They are fully engaged. They're both on the same side, that's good. And now I've got to follow this double wrap choker all the way around to make sure it didn't crisscross anywhere. Honestly, as a practical examiner, I can tell that it's not crisscrossing because if you'll notice, the cross happens at the top. All right, so what do I mean by that? The shackle is popping out on the left side of the standing end, and then the sling running to my hoist is on the right side, as you all are looking at it right now. So that cross that's happening right now means that I can take the blade of my hand right there, and I'm going to touch the load on all 3 sides. No crisscrosses underneath. So this is an excellent shape. Checking the other side, pin is fully seated. We're definitely on the dead end. The pin is on the dead end of that sling, that double wrap choker. And if you notice the cross is happening on top, but I'll take the blade of my hand and just double check and make sure that I haven't crossed anywhere. And we haven't, and there's no twists. So what would wrong look like? So right now this is good. No points taken off. But let's mess it up a little bit just for fun. I'm gonna go ahead and put some random twists in this sling, and I'm gonna go ahead and have a cross underneath. All right, so this isn't too hard, folks. You should be able to grade this. So we'll give you your CCO Practical Examiner card here. See the twists? That's gonna be a no-go. And as I fall, if I take the blade of my hand and follow this down, notice that I'm crossing underneath the load. So this is twisted and crossing. It would only have to be one of those to be completely wrong. So don't get any of those like that. And then there's that tattletale I was telling you about. The tattletale I was informing you about. Notice that the shackle's coming up on your left, and the rig going toward the crane hook is coming up on your right. That whole configuration is coming up on the same side. So we can tell that it's crossing somewhere, and it's not on top. And as we investigated, it crossed on the bottom. So we don't want that to happen. So your right side is correct right now. This is not hard to fix though, so take the time. You get 1 hour to take this exam. Let's stop for a second and go ahead and fix this. If I will play with that, I got all those out, so there's no more twists, all right? But we're still crossed underneath. If I grab the side that I like and start playing with that, making the blade of my hand go underneath there, then I can pull that shackle back where it belongs, and we're back to 100%, no problem. So take the time, get it right. Task G. Using 2 of the 8-foot web slings, create a double wrap basket hitch near each end of the square tube. Gather the uprise into a 5/8" shackle, repeat at the other end. Using a 6-foot adjustable 2-leg chain sling assembly, secure the lower hooks into 5/8" shackles. Using the adjustment, shorten each chain sling to 18 inches plus or minus 2 inches of overall reach. Place the master link into the hoist hook. We're going to get started this way. We're going to go ahead and measure this out. I think this is much easier. Your book is going to tell you that you're supposed to take A, which is the master link, plus B, which is the link from the master link to the hook. And we measure here would be my endpoint of B. And then add those 2 together. A plus B equals your overall reach. That's your formula. This is kind of a shortcut way to do this. I'm going to go ahead now while it's hanging vertically, and I can do one measurement and get that A plus B right off the bat. So I'm going to guess at what 18 inches looks like on one leg. All right, if that's 9, then that's not enough. That's probably close. All right, so I've got 18 inches right on the money. 18 inches of overall reach. Now I'm just going to make the other one match. And you can count lengths, I guess, to make sure. You could even get your tape measure back out. I just don't think it's necessary. If this one's 18, and I confirm that, and I make this one match, then we should be good to go. All right, so I've got both of them. And the 18 inches, again, starts from the inside of that master link to the inside of this hook right here. That's the 18 inches. Now it says plus or minus 2 inches. It gives you a tolerance. Don't be that guy. Don't, on an exam, operate in that tolerance. Just go ahead and take the time and be dead on. 18 inches. All right, so this is done. We're going to give that a rest for a second. Come back to our tube over here. Using 2 8-foot web slings, create a double wrap basket hitch. So double wrap, this is one basket hitch, right? There's a basket hitch. Double wrap means I'm going to go underneath there one more time. I need to make sure that these will be even when I get done. I didn't want to collect those with the 5/8" shackle, so I'll go ahead and do that right now. It's a little tough. Pinch those off, lay it down, and you should be able to pick it right back up pretty easy here in a second. Grab my other one, sit on each end of the tube. So I'm going to wrap it down around there once, wrap it down there twice, double wrap. Make sure they're even. Grab that with that 5/8 inch shackle. And then it was these shackles. Into the chain sling. All right, now right off the bat, as I slid it off the table and threw it on, if I'm a candidate right now, then I'm checking some stuff out. This sling over here is wrong because both of these that are reporting to my crane hook are on the same side, and they should not be. So I'm crossing somewhere, probably underneath. Notice this one, although it's on top there. Both of the ones that are reporting to the crane, one of them is on your left, one of them is on your right. So we must be good there because there's no crossing that can happen that way then. If we investigate real fast, look at that. I can take the blade in my hand and I can go touch that load, touch that load, touch that load. So they didn't cross anywhere. So we're good because they should not cross. That popped out on me, that's okay, we'll just take it in stride. It might happen to you, so we just made that happen. Right there on live TV here. Let's keep going. This one a minute ago was popping on either side. So to fix that, I'm gonna go underneath here and make sure wherever I'm crossing, I'm gonna pull that. I'm crossing on the back right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that across. And now I'm not crossing. This one the same way. All right. I like those hooks to be both pointing the same way, so I will play with that a second. I like those hooks pointing out. That looks pretty good. So did we select correctly? We did use the two 8-foot web slings, I&I web slings. We used two 5/8 inch shackles. We used the 6-foot 2-leg chain sling assembly. Did we apply it correctly? As a practical examiner, I'm gonna check this out. First of all, is it 18 inches? I'm gonna measure that. We're 18 inches, so that's good. Checking these shackles. Are the pins seated, fully seated? And they are. Then I'll get to my slings. I'm gonna make sure that the slings aren't bunched up in that shackle, so I'm pulling those apart, making sure we're good. And I'm gonna use my hands to come down and make sure we don't have any twists in my sling. So this is nice and straight. Data tags up and out of harm's way. And I'm gonna run my hands underneath and make sure that we stay flat, that we're not twisted, and that there's no bunching that's happening underneath, no crissing, no crossing. And we are good all the way around here. All right. So if I check that underneath, I would make sure that it stays flat. Stays flat. Both of them are staying flat and they don't crisscross anywhere. All right. And I just did it again. But that was absolutely the correct way to rig that task G. We selected correctly, we applied correctly. Task H, using two of the 3-foot round slings, create a single wrap choker hitch at each end of the tube in the same direction. Using a 5/8 inch shackle, attach each round sling to a wire rope bridle leg of the two-leg wire rope bridle sling. Connect the master link of that wire rope bridle sling to the hoist hook. Let's rig it. So we've got our 3-foot round slings. We're going to create that choker hitch. For a minute there, I thought we were using the choker, using the shackle to create the choker. We are not. No problem. I haven't said done yet, so it's not counting against us. So there's a choker. All right, data tag up and out of harm's way. And it looks like we're going to use the shackle to attach to the wire rope bridle. Something like that. And it did say the same direction. I'm going to start with that data tag. And it looks like we came from that direction. All right. task H, did we select correctly? Using 2 3-foot round slings, create a single wrap choker hitch at each end of the tube. Using 5/8" shackles, collect the upper sling eyes and attach to that wire rope sling. Attach the wire rope sling master link into the hoist hook. So we selected correctly. Let's see if we applied it correctly. As a practical examiner, I'm going to start from the top and work my way down. Master link is in, wire rope's not twisted, kinked, bent. The hooks are pointing out, I like that. I'm going to start with these shackles. The shackles are fully seated, both of them. And I'm going to get down here to the slings. Is our data tag up and out of harm's way? And it absolutely is. Not having any issues there. How did we do on our choker hitches? I'm going to check to make sure that underneath here, that we're not bunched, twisted, and that we're wrapping in the same direction as the card says. And I think we're good. So looking at this, I'm going to try to get these upside down without pulling one off. But as you can tell, we're all good. We don't cross. These are allowed. The purple sling is allowed to lay on itself as if you were folding it in half. What I'm saying is, on your round sling, you can absolutely, as you fold that in half to use it, that does not count as laying on top of each other. But it would if it was a web sling, okay? You don't have to make sure these are separate because it's always going to cross a little bit in the pinch right there. So this is 100% legal. Now, if you took that and folded it again, crossing itself for a basket hitch or a choker hitch, if you again crossed it, that would not be okay. But you can fold it on itself like so as you're using it. So here we have the single wrap choker hitches at each end of the tube in the same direction. All this is nice and flat, no twists, no turns. We didn't cross. What would the cross look like underneath? Actually, it might be hard because it's not a double wrap, so it probably won't cross at all. This is task H, rigged correctly. All right, so wrap it up. Rigging connections is the biggest part of your CCO practical exam for rigging. Make sure you do your due diligence and study this. This is where the majority of guys tend to slip up and not get that card. What kind of things should you remember before you take this test? Make sure your shackles, make sure that screw pin is fully seated, okay? Not just hand tight, but make sure it's fully seated. Eye bolts. Don't have them oriented where they're looking at each other, all right? Make sure they're pointing at each other in the plane of the eye. Make sure you know the difference between your swivel hoists and your side poles. That'll be a big hang up if you get those mixed up. Make sure you put your washers and nuts oriented correctly on the bottom there. When you're doing your included angle, when you're doing your overall reach, make sure that you're measuring from the inside up the upper top of that master link to the bottom. There's 18 inches, the bottom of that hook. All right. Make sure rigging's not twisted. Make sure it's not crisscrossed. That it's nice and smooth, and again, not overlapping. Make sure in your shackles that you're not bunching up your rigging in the shackle. It should never be on top of each other or again jammed up, causing problems there. So there's a couple quick tips. Again, watch the video again and again before you take your CCO practical exam. Good luck to you. Our hope here at KWI is that you get the full card, both rigger and signal. So that should be your goal too. You paid the money, you came to train, let's get you what you came for. Thank you.